You're listening to
Israel National Radio.
You're listening to
Israel National Radio.
You are listening to
Israel National Radio.
Israel National Radio.
Protestant loyalist unionist people, they're being forced to stop flying this flag called Willie Frazer, and the judge said to him he was being remanded in custody, and they're suppressing the people of the majority of Northern Ireland, let me say. They burnt his house and his car.
Well, my guest tonight is an Irishman. Why don't you give our listeners a very brief background, if you can?
Well, I'll give you an insight. If I'm sort of going too slow or too fast, just let me know. Well, I was brought up in a very, very strict a religious upbringing. My mother she was from Dublin, Southern Ireland, and she absolutely detested the provisional IRA, and even sort of anybody who sort of, she was a good woman at heart, basically, and I got my values from her and my father as well. And she would always help someone who was in trouble. She would stop many riots in where I lived in the Craigan area of Londonderry, and because everybody knew my mother was like very hard, very sort of straight woman basically, and she wouldn't take any sort of lip from anybody, as they say back home, Mm-hmm. So I had a lot of her beliefs, and also a number of two of my brothers were shot by the IRA for antisocial behaviour, they called it.
What does that mean?
Well, they said they were sort of like sort of robbing and things like that, antisocial behaviour, sort of breaking into shops and things like that,
So the IRA was like a morality police as well?
Yeah, but that's a bit of a joke, but they classified themselves as such, but...
Kind of like the Hamas.
I have no idea. I haven't know what the principles of Hamas are. All I know that they just want Israel to be wiped off the face of the earth. You know what I mean? So I don't know if they were sort of.
But they also have their patrols where if they see a couple walking together holding hands, they'll go in and beat up the guy.
Along those lines.
Uh-huh.
Oh yeah, they were their own sort of like policing force, if that's what you mean, for their own areas. Yes, of course.
Okay, so you had two brothers who got into some trouble. And so the IRA came and they shot them because they were thieves or whatever.
Well, they said they stole things or whatever.
Did they? Did your brothers do that?
Well, I never asked them, but it didn't matter because they were my brothers. It didn't matter if they stole or not, and they didn't deserve to be shot by an illegal organisation. In the back of the shops. You know what I mean?
That's right. This is true.
Justice takes its course by the law, not sort of terrorists who think they're upholding the law for whatever reason in a sort of democratic sort of area,
And your brothers survived.
Oh yes, like they did survive, but I know many who actually died because of they get shot in the kneecaps because of the blood loss and all that. So there lots of people died because of it.
But can you define for us who are not familiar with the different groups in Northern Ireland what the difference is between the provisional IRA, the national IRA, and the regular IRA?
Well, it started off, I think it was in the late 70s or the early 70s when it was called the official IRA then, and they sort of broke up and became disbanded. The official IRA, they cut into two groups. They split. One went into the IRSP INLA wing, and then there was another group that turned themselves into the provisional IRA, which was a lot more sort of motivated and a lot more sort of groomed in sort of terrorist acts rather than sort of the INLA IRSP.
So they were more militant.
Yeah. Well, they were more sort of successful in the way they got recruits and more professional, as you would say, and more militant. Right now, the provisional IRAs say they're in a sort of peace deal with all the unionists, but I find that very hard to believe, knowing what I know. And there's another new sort of splinter group has evolved, which they're called the real IRA, or the continuity IRA. So one groups, they just split into other groups once they're not satisfied with what the other groups finished off doing, basically, and they just have their own agendas, or they will keep going on their own agendas, basically. You know what I mean? But it's a case of the terrorist groups just keep going on, breaking away and going on and on and on. I don't know. I think it's just one of those old stories. You know, now we have in Northern Ireland, Tamar, you won't believe this. We have our security, what's a police force over there. It's now called the PSNI. And it used to be called the RUC, Royal Ulster Constabulary. And on that board of the PSNI, I think it's called Policing Northern Ireland and Irish Service or something like that it's called now. And on that board, right, is a terrorist who blew up London in the early 70s, and he actually shot and I think he murdered a prison warder when he tried to escape from the maze, Long Kesh, as he called it then, the H blocks. And he's got the ear of the Chief Constable, MI5 Intelligence Services, and they basically, Sinn Fein IRA, run the actual police service of Northern Ireland. That's what it's called, police service of Northern Ireland. And that wouldn't happen in Israel. It wouldn't happen in America. What country do you know of, Tamar, that would have a known terrorist blows up London and was a member of the IRA? He's admitted all this and he's been done for it, and bring him into a policing board, which he has more sort of say over anything else that happens. He tells the police. The police constable or the chief constable what to do, Matt Baggett. And it's unbelievable. What other
they did something like that with Yasser Arafat. You know, like put us, you know, legitimized him. I won't say to put a suit and tie on him, but
I'm saying to you, he is actually on. As far as I know, Northern Ireland is a part of the UK. Right, you would be saying in the same instance, you're going to bring Yasser Arafat into like Mossad or your security system and put him as a full member of that board.
So tell us all who don't know the whole politics and the feelings of the people so much. Now things are good. People are going out and they're going to the malls and they're, you know, going to school and there's freedoms and they live in the West. And, you know, Americans got over the Revolutionary War with Britain. So, I mean, what was this hatred? Where did it stem from? Well, we know where it stemmed from, but why was it still burning so hard that people still, in the 1970s, were ready to blow innocent people up in order to get independence from Britain?
Well, I'll give you one answer to that. When I first came over here in the early 80s, and I was basically left on my Todd, and Northern Ireland then was, I would say, compared to England, about 100 years behind the times. They're still living in the past in Northern Ireland, basically. And as you say, you think that the people in Northern Ireland, whom a majority of them are actually Protestant, loyalist, unionist people, and are now being run by people who used to go out in the Provisional IRA, are now being run by the Provisional IRA and being told what to do, and led by the nose by these guys who now are in sort of head of the police force in Northern Ireland. There's not contentment there. It's more suppression. MI5 have got a big intelligence, have got a big sort of a big security base there in Palace Barracks in Northern Ireland beside Knock, which is the PSNI's barracks. And, you know, they're being suppressed. The Protestant loyalist community, unionist community, are being suppressed and trying. For example, I'll just give you another example tomorrow. There was two people arrested the other day for, or a couple of people arrested for a murder of a chap. There's a lot of them called McCartney in Belfast, and he was a bouncer, and a lot of these IRA men just beat him up one night and actually killed him, and their family have been fighting for justice for years. Now, the guy who was actually sort of done for that went up for bail yesterday. He got bail. But a chap who was fighting to have the Union flag, Union Jack flag, to be flown over, it's still a Northern Ireland, part of Great Britain, and I say majority of the people are sort of Unionist, loyalist people. And they're being forced to stop flying this flag, or they'll be put in prison. A guy from I know called Willie Frazer. Now, this guy, four of his family were murdered by the IRA. He went up in front of the judge the other day, and the judge said to him he was being remanded in custody because they thought he was organising riots in Belfast, Northern Ireland, and he had a taser gun at home. Now, these other guys who are IRA terrorists, well known, are being sort of given bail, let out on the streets, and this poor man has trumped up Mickey Mouse charges of having a taser, and I just can't understand why he didn't have a legally held firearm anyway, because his father, and they burnt his house and his car a couple of weeks ago, and they actually tried to burn him and his family out of the house, and he was still sent to remand. It just shows you the crassness of the PSNI, MI5, and Sinn Fein IRA, who've got the security forces by the nose, and they're suppressing the people of the majority of Northern Ireland, let me say, by this sort of action of theirs. And they say loyalists can't sort of demonstrate and try and have their flag, which is the flag of their Northern Ireland, their country, put up on a building of Belfast, which is the capital city of Northern Ireland. So it just shows you that they're suppressing and arresting and coming down hard, threatening, telling stories to sort of blacken their names. Basically, it's intelligence sort of propaganda that we all know they do best, basically. But you say in Israel that the people of Northern Ireland are happy. They are not happy, because I listen to it every day, and they even suppress the news from Northern Ireland because they don't want the people in the mainland England knowing anything about it. But I've got lots of friends on Facebook, and they're telling me what's going on over there, and it's absolutely diabolical. I'm a Roman Catholic, but I feel sorry for the loyalist, unionist, Protestant community right now, because they are given the raw end of the stick right now, and they're being trampled upon by the people of their own politicians, the DUP, the UUP alliance, and they're not doing nothing for them. For example, Martin McGuinness and a few of his IRA Sinn Féin people went to go to court, right, and show that they were backing the guy who was brought up on a murder charge of this chap McCartney, and there was nobody for Willie Frazer, who is a part of FAIR, who's a sort of legitimate organisation. They've been trying to blacken that name of his as well, because he talks out so much about people who he knows and we all know are murderers. And they're arresting people on loyalists and unionists for Mickey Mouse charges, and they know that these IRA men, what they've done in the past, and they're just sort of letting them sort of walk free. And what way do you think that would sort of, how do you think an Israeli sort of community would think of that? It was similar organisation like, let me see, Israelis, and they had Palestinians or something, or Hamas in their government, and Hamas were ruling the Israeli government, basically. Well, they wouldn't stand for it. Well, it's the same sort of scenario.
Why did you want to talk to Israel National Radio and our listeners?
Well, basically, I want people all around the world to let them know what way